Hello and welcome to Into the Woods with Holly Worton. This podcast is all about our journey into the woods of ourselves, getting to know who we are, where we are, and where we're going in life so that we can create the life that we want to live. It's about deepening your connection with yourself, taking inspired action, and really trusting yourself and your intuition. It's also about mindset. Our beliefs are such an important part of this journey, and there are so many ways for us to change our mindset so that we can more easily live a life of expansive joy. This podcast is also about going literally into the woods and spending time in nature, and how that can help us on our own personal journey of self-knowledge. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now let's get into this week's episode. Hello, adventurers, and welcome to the Into the Woods podcast, episode 467. This is your host, Holly Worton, and I'm back with another solo episode. Today, I'm talking about the concept of hike your own hike. And I'm sure you've heard this before, but I keep seeing this come up, and I feel like it's worth talking about. Because this doesn't just apply to the trail or whatever adventure you're doing, it also applies to life. So I recently read this novel called The Trail, and it was about the John Muir Trail in California. And there was a lot of judgment by the characters in the book, even though the concept of hike your own hike came up in conversation. So there was one point where one of the characters said to the other, don't be judgmental, hike your own hike. But then these other two characters were being judgmental, even though they had already acknowledged this concept. So I don't know. It's they seem to think sometimes it applied, sometimes it didn't. I don't know. But I've seen this a lot in Camino books. I have read so many books about the Camino de Santiago because it's something I've wanted to do for years. And so many people are so judgmental on the Camino. So let's talk about hike your own hike. What does that even mean? So I see it as having kind of two perspectives, an external perspective and internal perspective. The external perspective is mind your own business. Don't judge other people on the trail. You do your thing your way and let other people do their thing. So the internal perspective of that is, of course, do your thing your way. Hike your hike the way you want to hike your hike. But again, don't judge others for doing it differently. As you can see, this applies not just to the trail, but to so many aspects of life. So why is hike your own hike important? First of all, it helps you to respect others and their individuality. It helps you to respect your own personal way of doing things, even when you do them differently. It can help you to avoid injury. So if you're trying too hard and trying to do too much because you're trying to hike someone else's hike, you can sometimes end up injured. It can also help to prevent burnout and disappointment with your adventure or experience. Again, if you're trying to do things someone else's way. So on the trail, people judge all kinds of things. People judge starting and stopping times. Some people like to start really early and get done early. Some people like to start really late and just roll into camp late. Some people hike at different paces, and some people judge other people's paces. Some people judge the amount of breaks people like to take or how long they like to take a break. Some people judge the amount of sleep people need on the trail. Some people judge people for taking naps. Some people judge others for listening to music or podcasts on the trail, or for not listening to music or podcasts. Some people get judged for camping or staying at B&Bs, for staying at campsites or wild camping, for sleeping in a tent or sleeping in a hammock. Everyone has their own way of doing a trail, and some people can be judgmental about people that make different decisions. Running versus walking a trail. So there's a point in this book where the two characters had already discussed the concept of hike your own hike, and then they see this runner coming through who says, I'm trying to run the John Muir Trail in a week. Hikers, by the way, usually take about 4 weeks. I'm running. And the guy takes off running. And they have this whole conversation about this guy's doing it wrong. He's not taking the time to enjoy the scenery. And he's not taking the time to soak in the experience. And they were completely ignoring that their reasons for doing the trail were quite possibly different from this other guy's reasons for doing the trail. Now, this fictional running character, we don't know what his motivations were for doing the trail, but maybe he had done the trail before by walking. Maybe he had hiked it before. Maybe he had camped before. Maybe this time around he was looking for a more challenging experience. Maybe he wanted to challenge himself to see if he could run the trail in a week. Who knows what his why was? Walking a trail or hiking a trail is not better than running. running is not better than walking. Like, it all depends on why you're doing the thing you've chosen to do. Some people like to have hot meals when they're camping. Some people like to do dry soaking, because when you do dry soaking, you don't have to bring a stove. So that lets you travel lighter. Ultralight people can be super judgmental. Not always, but sometimes. So there's always that ultralight versus traditional gear. Some people get judgmental about people doing a trail in stages rather than through hiking it. And that's absolutely a ridiculous thing to judge people for, because not everyone can get a month or several months off of work or business to hike a trail. Another thing people are stupid judgmental about. Did I say stupid judgmental? I meant to say super judgmental. And I see this a lot in Camino books, is carrying all of your gear on your back in a big backpack or getting it shuttled. Now, there are a lot of trails where you can get your stuff shuttled from stop to stop, not just on the Camino. Most of the major national trails here in the UK, you can get your stuff shuttled. You can also do it on the coast to coast. And that is a totally valid way of doing the trail. Like, if you don't have the stamina to carry a big pack every day, or even if you just don't feel like it, it's okay to get your stuff shuttled from place to place. And I find it really annoying when people judge other people for choosing that option. When we were doing the coast to coast, we had very big packs. My pack, as you know, was stupidly big. And a lot of people commented on how we were doing the trail the right way by camping and carrying all our stuff. And I think that's bullshit. Like, that's one way of doing the trail, and I really love doing the trail that way. But it's fine to do it however you want to do it. Daily mileage, that's another thing that people can be judgmental about, like whether you're doing too much or doing too little. Like, find what works for you and do it. So again, going back to that external perspective of hike your own hike, like, just stop judging others, whether that's verbally or even in your head. You don't know their story, you don't know their background, you don't know their ability, and you don't know their why for a trail. So this can even happen for like day stuff. Like, I was out on a run couple months ago, 2 or 3 months ago. And I don't remember, it was like a 2 or 3 hour run, 3 hour run, I think it was. And I was kind of tired towards the end of the run. I'd been out for like 2.5 hours by that point. And I hit this like slightly uphill area where I was walking it. And I hear these people running from behind me. It was a man and a woman. And as the guy passes me, he like tries to give me this motivational, he was like, come on, go, go, go. And I was just like, I mean, I didn't say anything. I was just like, hi, and kind of waved. Then he went on. But I was fuming inside because it was like, you don't know me. You don't know what I'm training for. Like, you don't know anything about me. Also, if I want to walk for a couple minutes, like, I don't care. Like, it's not like I'm giving up on life because I decided to walk on my run. Like, it's okay to walk a little bit on your run. Like, life is not over. Anyway. So I found that to be really intrusive and really annoying. So you don't know their why. You don't know what they're training for. You don't know what they're doing. You don't know why they're doing the thing they're doing. So just don't give your opinion. So if people ask for help or if they ask for your opinion, obviously give it because they want it. But otherwise, assume they don't want it. Like, that guy's comments, I didn't find useful. I didn't find motivating. I just found it irritating. So, if I don't ask for your opinion, I probably don't want it. And that goes for most people. And just don't gatekeep other people's experiences, because there are so many different ways of doing things. There are so many different ways of hiking a trail or running a trail or having a certain adventure. And everyone has their own way of doing it, and that's okay. So with that internal perspective, a lot of times what people will worry about is, well, what will people think of me? So like, if you're doing something differently from how most people do a thing, you might think, oh, I bet they're judging me. I bet they think badly of me. I bet they think I'm not good enough. Don't waste your time and energy on that. Go back to your why. And this is why I have a whole episode on knowing your why for your outdoor adventures, and I will link to that in the show notes. But knowing your why for each adventure, whether that's a day hike or a month-long hike, knowing your why informs your decisions. And it's something you can always go back to and be like, well, everyone else is doing this thing this way, but I'm doing it this other way because this, that, and the other. If you're running the Camino de Santiago because you want to do that as a personal challenge and you don't have as much time to take off of work or business, and it's a great way to do the trail and see the sights in less time, then that makes sense why you would choose to run it. But if you have all the time in the world and you can take off a month to do it, and you really want to just kind of slowly walk your way across the country, that's fantastic. That's another great reason to do it. Know why you're doing the thing you're choosing to do and refer back to that. There's really only one right way to do an adventure. And that is to have the right gear, supplies, and skills for your experience or chosen adventure, and to leave no trace. That's it. Those are the only rules. Have the stuff you need to do the thing you want to do safely, and leave no trace. Super simple. And I have a podcast episode on how to leave no trace if you are curious on how to do that. So, how do you hike your own hike? What things do you need to keep in mind? First of all, notice when you judge others, even if it's in your own head. And ask yourself, why are you judging them? What is their behavior bringing up for you? What is it triggering for you? And you can journal on that, or you can just reflect on it. And then notice when you judge yourself for how you're doing something. Why are you judging yourself? What are you afraid of? Are you afraid of what other people will think? Are you afraid that you're not good enough? Are you afraid that, something else? And again, this is something you can journal on, or it's something you can just reflect on. And I think that can be really, really useful to kind of dig deeper into what's going on for you. How does this concept of hike your own hike apply to life? Well, first of all, don't judge others. When you see yourself judging others, whether it's verbally or mentally, again, ask yourself, why are you judging them? What is their behavior bringing up for you? And do things your own way. Find your own style, find your own way of doing something, and then give yourself permission to do it your way, even when it seems like most people are doing it a different way. Do what you can, how you can, and do it in a way that's right for you. Now, obviously, it can be useful to learn from other people. So if you're starting a business and you see that a bunch of people starting similar businesses have done this, that, and the other, and you want to do something totally different, great, do the other different thing. But if it doesn't work, then maybe try some of the tried and tested things. But those might not be right for you. So they might work, they might not. Pay attention to what other people are doing, because it might work for you or it might not. And then make an informed decision about how you want to do something. So again, do it your way. Give yourself permission to do it your way. And I say it that way because I think sometimes we just feel like we shouldn't be doing things differently, that we should be doing things the way everyone else does things. But that's not true. Really important to just find your way of doing things. And I think a lot of super successful people have gotten that way because they've taken the road less traveled. They have done things differently. They have chosen a different way of doing things, and it's worked for them. So the way that someone else does something doesn't necessarily mean that's going to work for you. So why is it important to hike your own hike in life? It's a really easy road to burnout when you decide to do things someone else's way. Because again, that way might have worked for them, but it might not work for you. And if you keep pushing yourself to do things someone else's way, that can lead to burnout. And it can also lead to dissatisfaction and just not being happy in life and not being happy with the thing that you're doing. So what does hike your own hike look like in life off the trail? Start out by taking time to know your why for the things you do. So not just for your adventures, but for everything you do in life. Why are you choosing to do this? Why is this important? Why do you choose to take a certain action or do a certain thing or participate in a certain activity? And then again, give yourself permission to do the thing in your way, even if that's different from how everyone else does it. And notice when you're judging other people or judging yourself and ask why. Don't be afraid to dig in there and get to know what's going on for you. What is this situation bringing up for you? What can you learn from this experience? Why are you judging people? Why are you judging for yourself? Always ask why, so you can dig a little deeper and understand. And that can help you to let go of the judgment. And then think about ways that you've been judging yourself for how you do things in life. After you listen to this, just kind of maybe stop and reflect for a while and just reflect. How have you been judging yourself for how you do things in life? And ask, How can you let go of that judgment and just give yourself permission to do your own thing in your own way? And then think about ways that you've been judging others. Like, even if you don't think you've been judgmental, like maybe you have been. What's going on there? Like, what do you think that's about? Do you have any fears around what they're doing or how they're doing it? Do you have any fears around, oh, they're doing it this way? Maybe they're right and I'm wrong. Or maybe they know and I don't. Like, what's that bringing up for you? I think that can be super useful to really reflect on, like, why we are judgmental sometimes. So when you practice hike your own hike in life and on the trail, you develop more empathy and more compassion, not just for others, but for yourself. You become more accepting of others, and you become more accepting of yourself and who you are and how you choose to do things. And you develop more self-confidence and self-esteem and self-trust, which are things that a lot of people struggle with. And so one thing you can do to make this easier is, as I always say, do the mindset work. And what this means is to do the mindset work to transform your subconscious beliefs around self-confidence, self-esteem, self-trust. A lot of this stuff boils down to just not being good enough and working on that belief, I am good enough. I'm good enough in my job. I'm good enough in my career. I'm good enough in my business. I'm good enough as a hiker, as a runner, as a whatever. And simply, I am good enough. Developing that belief by implanting it into your subconscious using some kind of mindset tool is really, really useful belief to have. And this is something that you might need to work on over and over again because there are multi-layers to it. This is one of the most fundamental things that I've been working on in terms of mindset since I first started working on my mindset 10 years ago. But it's very useful and it's a great belief to boost your self-confidence and self-esteem. And self-trust. Self-trust is one of the most important things to have in life. And I think when you choose to hike your own hike on the trail and in life and live your life the way you want to, even though that looks different from how most people are doing or from how other people are doing it, that really helps you to develop self-trust because you're doing things your way, how you want to do them. But it all starts with awareness. So if you're one of those people like I am who reads a lot of books about hiking and running and stuff like that, notice when other people are being judgmental and pay attention to how you feel about that. Pay attention to how you feel about their attitudes, about the things people are doing that they're being judgmental about. Just start with awareness. That can be really, really useful. And that can also help boost your awareness in your day-to-day life. So that's pretty much all I have to say on the topic. I know this is another shorter episode, but I just felt like this is something that was important to talk about because I just keep seeing it coming up in books that I'm reading and just in life. And I think it's a concept that, as I said, applies not just to the trail, but to life in general. So I hope you found this episode interesting and useful. Please drop me a line and let me know what you thought. You can email me at holly@hollyworton.com or find me online and get in touch there. If you enjoyed this episode, you might want to check out one of these related episodes. For 11, I talk about who do you need to be for the adventures you want to have. 408, I talk about starting where you are. 402, I speak with Cynthia Radford about how to leave no trace. 382, I discuss how to know your why for your outdoor adventures. In 373, I talk about how outdoor adventures can help you to give yourself permission to be you. So, thank you so much for listening. And remember to visit hollywharton.com/467 for the show notes on this episode. Next week, I should be back with another exciting guest. Have a great week and happy trails. Thanks so much for listening to Into the Woods with Holly Worton. You can find more information about today's episode, including links for topics that were discussed at hollywharton.com. That's HOLLYWORTON.com. If you'd like to connect with other listeners and get support on your journey, I would love for you to join my private community on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Holly Worton. That's patreon.com/Holly Worton. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you next week.